In this modification video, we're going to be installing progressive suspension springs to the front forks, along with the spacers. So this is our third generation Kawasaki KLR650. This is the S model. We're currently modifying it. We did a previous video, we'll link it up here, where we added new coils to the rear suspension. In this video, we're going to go through the process of replacing the front suspension, the front coils, with these progressive ones, and then cutting and adding a spacer. The process of changing out the fork springs is actually pretty easy. So we'll take a 22 millimeter, make sure you get an extension on so you can clear the handlebars, and we'll just remove these top covers. So I've got the steering wheel kind of locked over. There we go. All right, this is important then to put pressure on it because there's a lot of spring pressure pushing on these. So keep pressure as you loosen. Keep a good amount of pressure so we don't have any galling or binding. Okay, that looks like it's off. There you go. Not too much pressure. It'll probably be different when we put in the new springs. Yeah, there's not too much pressure pushing on those. There you go, just a little bit, see? So make sure you have some rags because this is oily. And there it is, there's the top. You got the little rubber seal. That's about it. So now we'll take out the spacer. So for this next part, you can either get like a wire or a little hook, but we have a magnet with an extendable section, so we're going to fish it out with a magnet. And let's go fishing. So the first thing is the little washer. Now for the spring. There she is. Uh-oh, it's a mess. There's the spring. So there's all the parts. So you can see this is the stock spring. Came with a little spacer, or sorry, a washer, and then this metal spacer, and then the cap. We're going to replace it with these longer springs, also progressive at the base. They come with their own little washer here. And then it comes with this PVC piping that you're going to cut to length. So the directions that come with the springs. So the directions that come with the springs have the Kawasaki KLR650 listed here. It doesn't have the third generation, but we're going to stick with the same. It recommends a 3-inch spacer. So let's go cut this to 3 inches. So we'll measure 3 inches. We'll do the same to the other side. We'll cut on the line. Safety glasses on. Let's go cut. bit. Now that we got our preload spacers cut, those will go up on top. Then we'll put this washer here. And then we'll put our spring, our progressive springs in with this side down on the bottom. And you can see it's slightly longer. Actually, it's almost about the same. About the same length. Starting with the spring. And we'll add the washer. I'll just drop it in there. We'll see how it goes. Sometimes the washer gets a little cockeyed. It did in this case, so we'll pull it out and straighten it again. Okay, now it's good. And it's designed so that this PVC just fits right there. There's plenty of surface area. I considered another washer, but that'll work fine. There we go. And now this. We're going to put some pressure on it to make sure we seat it. So I'll just push really good on the first one, make sure we got good contact, no binding. Rotate it with my fingers until we get good bite, and then we'll put a wrench on it. You don't want it to strip. Now we'll just tighten this. We won't torque it yet. We'll just tighten it and we'll finish torquing them both once we finish both the other side. Okay, so that side is done, with the exception of torquing. Let's start on the other side. Come on. There we go. Almost off. There it comes. Perfect. Got a rag there to catch the oil. Got the end cap, nice and clean. Spacer. These aren't too oily. Almost all the oil's at the bottom. A little washer. Now for the spring. Come out. There you go. Come on. Got on that cable right there. Pull that cable out of the way. Oil on it. Because that's good though. You want fork oil in there. So now we've got both of the stock coils out. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Starting with this at the bottom, we'll put the washer on, the spacer, and the cap. And finally the cap. So it might help up, if you could pull up on the bike a little bit, and everything will drop down, alleviating some of the pressure. Make sure it's installed correctly, no binding, goes in really smooth. That's it. So pulling the service manual on the 3rd generation KLR650, the It says the front fork top plugs need to be torqued to 30 Newton meters or 22 foot-pounds. 22 foot-pounds. So unfortunately, the only torque wrench that, it's actually not even mine, it's my brother-in-law's. He only has one that goes down to, the minimum is about 40 Newton meters. So this is gonna be too big. So we're just gonna have to calibrate it. But if you have a torque wrench that goes to 30 Newton meters, use that. I'm just gonna wing it. So for tightening them, it might be nice just to roll the handlebars to the right. And then 30 Newton meters. So here's a lesson we learned the hard way. Make sure your socket is 6-pointed, not one of these multi-point sockets, because it's recoverable, but because these are aluminum, it'll round off these edges. So, all right, do yourself a favor, get a 6-point socket, not one of those stupid multi-point ones. And now we're just going to torque it down. All right, that's good. So there you go. It's pretty easy to install progressive springs in the 3rd generation Kawasaki KLR. So the next thing we need to do now that we got the rear springs replaced and the front springs replaced is we're going to do a comparison video where we ride this one with all the new upgrades compared to the original stock KLR. So here we are on just a typical dirt road that we found. It's typical of kind of the same roads that we ride a lot of. And we're going to check the difference between Chantil on her modified KLR-S version, the shorter version, but she's got the upgrade shocks. And then we'll be riding mine, which is just the standard KLR, the base model with the standard shocks. And then we're going to do some comparison. So let's ride. So Chantil's on her KLR-S. She's got the upgrade suspension. And she's got a little bit of luggage. Not a whole lot of luggage, what, like maybe 25 pounds?
Yeah, not very much.
So not nearly as what we're going to carry typically when we overland full time, but I don't know. What do you think so far?
I am loving this. This is so much smoother than it was before. It just stops all the bouncingness of the. It just stops the bouncing. That's all I can say.
But it's not. So it's definitely stiffer, right? Of course,
yes.
we knew it'd be stiffer, but does it feel like it's worse stiff, like it's bone jarring?
It actually goes smooth over each bump, and you can't even feel it chewing over a bump. It's so nice.
Right, so it tends not to bottom out as much, I'm guessing, especially if we put load on it.
Right, exactly.
Right. The reality is, I find my suspension's pretty good. Like at this speed, if you're riding roads like this, I really don't feel any reason to change the suspension, especially if you're not going to ride with luggage. But the problem is, in our case, we've got, we're going to be bringing about, I don't know, 80, 90 pounds of stuff because we live on the bikes full time. So we got our creature comforts like big comfy tent and 4-inch mattress and all that fun stuff, and chairs, big comfy camp chair. So yeah, the reality is, I think just spending a little bit of money for the springs makes a big difference.
Yep, I agree.
If you're going to be rided loaded. Again, it didn't cost that much for the springs. The springs were only $105, and then the progressive springs up front were about $110. So for about $230, $250 shipped to your door with tax. Mind you, you have to do the work yourself, but if you know somebody with a spring compressor, then for $220, $230, it's worth it. It's definitely a cheaper alternative to replacing your whole suspension. And there's not a whole lot of options for the brand new KLR, unfortunately, so at least right now.
I really am enjoying this new suspension because it's so much less bumpier than it was before. I can't even tell I'm going over bumps sometimes. Right,
that's good. And another thing we've noticed too is that when we put it on the side stand, it doesn't sag as much, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like the side stand on the KLR is kind of too low, personally. And it's even worse when it kind of sags on it right after you put it on there and let all your pressure off the
off the bike. So it eliminated that. It's definitely more stiff. So, alright. Sounds like it's a winner. Okay, now that you got used to it, let's switch bikes and do a comparison.
Okay, but I don't know if I want to. This is so nice compared to the other one.
Alright, let's pull over. Alright, you ready to get on the slightly taller one? Okay. Oh, I will say though, having the S is kind of nice though, even with your upgraded suspension. It's nice that it's lower. It's a little too compact for me though, but I do like the lowerness of getting on and off of it.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Oh man, it just feels so much more confidence inspiring. Like at speed, it feels like I could rip it more. Because it doesn't bounce so much. And then when you hit the front brakes, like, oh, so much, like my nose dives pretty badly. I wouldn't say badly, but it's definitely more springier. And because it's more springier, when you jam on the front brakes like I am now, see, oh, so much more planted.
I agree with you. This is a lot bumpier, especially when you hit all those little tiny potholes.
Right, so like a little bit of washboard right here, it's so much more confidence inspiring. I don't know, I'm convinced. Let's ride home and replace the suspension on my bike now.
Sounds good.
So if you're interested in more KLR modifications, make sure you subscribe, like, and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of future updates.